You ever wonder why there's 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour? I don't get it. I mean, did they forget how to count? I mean, 1, 2, 100 sounds more logical on what you'd actually go for. Was aliens involved? I don't know. That's something for Google later. Wrong answers in the comments. Let's see what you guys come up with. I think I'm gonna Google it later. But anyways, let's dive right into installing these on this charger behind me. For the sake of not wasting all your time, you're not going to see me underneath the vehicle. Everything that I can basically show you that you're not going to find in other videos, I could do right here. So I have already taken these ones off, and I can tell you it's not as bad as everyone kind of claims it is. The main thing is the right tools in order to do it. I think the heat shields were actually harder than these, and I'll get to that. So that's kind of the only heat shield in this that I'm going to be reusing, and I had to kind of just bend those out in order so it'll fit on there, you know, for the starter heat shield. But in order to get these things out, like this one's the passenger, right? Passenger. And I had to bend it a little bit. Literally, I found that bending them was the easiest way. It was this one, as you can kind of tell. Yeah. I had to mutilate this one in order to get it out. But after that, it was pretty easy. These are garbage afterwards, or I guess if I wanted to reuse them, I can put them in like this, unbend them inside there. Not gonna happen. So, garbage. So, but anyways, let's get on to this. So, here's your factory manifolds that, for lack of other ways to put it, suck. Actually, they just don't flow. You can compare that. These are some SRT Hellcat ones. A little bit of, I cleaned up the outside on them. They're used, and I got them for a stupid good deal. Basically, almost free. So, I'm going to put these in. I have brand new Mopar gaskets that I'm using, and also some brand new bolts, because these will no longer work. You'll bottom these out on your threads. So you got to get new bolts. All of the gaskets and the bolts I got from HHP, and I will create a link down in the description. I do not get paid from them, but that's just about the cheapest I could find it. The Mopar dealership site wanted to charge me individual prices. And yeah, and for the next video, well, get ourselves a little wideband that we're going to be installing, and that. So that's all I'm going to give you on that one. But let's dive into this. So let's get into what tools I used in order to remove these. Let's go through, and I started with my driver's side and then went over to the passenger's side. Driver's side did take me the longest, but that was just because I was kind of figuring it out at that point. I think if I was to go back and do it again, it'd be even less time in order to do it. So let's go through all these bottom bolts. So you have these two right here that are pretty easy to access. This one, which is about right in between a motor mount, which that one I wound up having to use the old box wrench for. And that's the same for the other side, box wrench for that one. These ones, on the other hand, I required no extensions, just 13 for this one on the old trusty wrench. Now, I like to use this style of swivel head just because it's able to get at any type of angle that I want. I would definitely suggest if you're looking to get some new wrenches, this is pretty well the standard that I go by. So I had the 13 there, the 12 there, and then I had, you know, your little 10 mil, or 13 there, 10 there, and then I had a 10 millimeter that was holding on the shroud, the heat shield, and that I just used that on. Some of them you'll find that you have kind of cramped up rooms, so having a quarter set of that and a 3/8 set of that helps out a lot. So these are super easy. This back one right here, if I could show you, I'll show you that here in a second, the back one. So let's go on to these three in the front right here. You don't have to get up, try and get them from above. If you basically jack it, you're going to have the front of your vehicle jacked up anyways. And that'll allow you space in order to actually use a long extension with a swivel. Your 12, your 13, your 10, and you're able to get up onto those with that. I will show you the pathway that I used right here. Let's dive into these top bolts. These two right here. Basically, the quarter was what I found was easiest to kind of fit up there. So I would use, this one didn't have any, so basically I would use this setup right here in order to get that. It just kind of is able to go in there just fine. And that's what I used in order to get this one right here. Now, when it comes to that one, I just added a little extension onto it. But I think that was too much, so I just used a shallow 10 because it's not a deep well needed. And then went into right there. Just have a good combination of your extensions. Let's see here. There we go, that's the one I used right there. So I just used this one on there with right there. Basically just right like that. There you go. Because while you don't have a whole lot of room, you do have a little bit of room, and you kind of just get that up there, slide it up, turn it over, get it on it. And you kind of get your hand up there in order to just feel to make sure that you're on it or to guide it up into there. But like I said, not a whole lot of room. Right, so now we're on the driver's side. So one extra note, you have that heat shield, which is right there that you have to remove. You have to bend it in order so it fit on those. But the thing is, that's for your, that's funny, it says all-wheel drive V8, even though this is rear-wheel drive. Weirdos. The thing to note is that that's for your starter. So your starter is going to have a live wire on it. If you haven't yet, which if you're working on your vehicle, you should be disconnecting your battery. But if you haven't yet, it's super close to your starter wire, or your starter terminal, and you want to make sure that your battery is disconnected before you start doing any of this, technically. So getting that out of the way, let's go right into these bolts. So like I said before, these two front ones, super easy. In fact, actually, these two were easier than the other three to get to. There's more room in order to see it, and you're able to go more straight at it. You're still going to use the same setup. Just swivel with a 13 onto there. And if you're wondering about this, so this is just a way in order so that your swivel is not as wobbly, I guess you'd say. You just wrap it with a layer or two of electrical tape. Kind of just keeps it from, you can manipulate it easier, and it's not just going to go bleep, bleep, you know. So that takes care of those two, and here's where you go through in order to actually get to that, right here. All right. We took care of that, and your two right here, you have that same setup that I was talking about. You have that for your backside one. I don't know if you can see that in order to get onto there. And then for this one, if you just use a 10 deep well, it kind of just, it gives you enough space. So that'll make it to where you can get all those from the bottom. It's super easy-ish. You just have to be... you have to be familiar with taking a bolt off blind. It's not really a big deal for me. Maybe it'd be good practice for you. So on to what I thought was actually the worst bolt. So this one right here, it's extremely close to your motor mount. So I wound up having to use the box wrench for that one, and it was literally just small little increments and quite a few of them in order to get that off. These two were stupid easy. You could just, oh, that's that size. You could literally just, there's that 10, right? 13. So you could just do that, and 10 for that. Makes those ones extremely easy, along with that one right there, so that 13, which is also really easy to get at. So that pretty well covers removal of those. You want to make sure that after you have these off, you're going to go through, and I would suggest grabbing one of your new bolts and just trying it out in every single thread. Make sure you don't have any pulled threads on any of them, because if you do, you might find yourself laying on your back for a while in order to try and fix those and chase those out. So I'm going to head in and start installing the new ones, and I'll get back to you on how exactly I did that. You know, side note, I'm going to do this about the same way. They're all 10s. So basically, I'm thinking that's about the only one that I'm kind of curious on how I'm going to get to. All the rest of them look pretty easy. So when I get back, I'm going to go over what wrench combination I used for what in a little while. All right, so now since I had the passenger header basically just kick my royal butt, let's kind of go over the combination of how we did this. So these two, right, you know, this is drivers, but it's the same. So drivers, the top, middle, these are the worst. Just got done doing this one, did that one before that. So this was the setup that I used in order to get that one. I got it from underneath. I was able to get the bolt in from the top, but I just couldn't get the wrench on it to save my life from the top. Bottom is about the only way I was able to do it. Couldn't even reach this one to get the bolt in. I basically had to fish my hand up here and put it in there. And this one right here, basically what I did was I used a shallow, and then I added in a whole bunch of extensions in there. How do I do this? Basically I followed the contour of it and did that, and then I got it from the bottom, and I had to reach up there to guide that into place and get it on there. So that was fun. The rest of them, there is another thing with that, and I'll get to that. So these two right here, you can tighten up from that same place that I was talking about up front, from underneath. But in order to tighten up basically all those, so this one you have basically in between a mount, and these ones just not a whole lot of room right there. So let me show you what I used. I had to modify a tool in order to make this one. And that's it right there. So just a 10mm, heated it up, bent it, and it just kind of fits inside there in order to actually get it. You could use like a swivel ratchet if you had one of those, but I didn't have one available, so improvised and modified one of my many extra 10mm that I have. So there's that. I have all those in there. On that side, they're all tightened up. For putting these in, just put these bolts in first. It will help if you put this one in just a little bit more, because that's the one that you just have the least amount of room on. And like I said, you're gonna fight these two. There's no way around it. So, find a small child to help you. Well, I'm going to get this one in. I'll let you know if there's anything extra that you wind up having to do. And then we'll get back to it. I have a bolt here. The reason why I have a bolt here, so your engine mounts have a heat shield on them. And this will stick out it sticks out like that far. And it will actually collide with your header. So you have two options. Could either beat the living crap out of your header, which these are pretty stout, or you could just chop the very end off of that to where you could still fit the nut on there and it'll all work. So I've already done that on the other side, and now I have this one all prepped for going back in on the driver's side. Alright, so hopefully last modification you got to make. You have the dipstick tube, because we're no longer using, one of those, because they're just way too long. Here's what I'm putting in versus that. So these will not work. So I modified this. I just opened it up, took a grinder, just made it a little bit bigger so that this would just barely fit through there. So now, and I also bent this just a little bit just to make it more where I want it to go, and I can just sandwich it between there. So get this on. This turned into a process. So the driver's side was a breeze. It was super easy to get in, not like the passenger side. So yeah, this is all I needed in order to get it in. Other than the 8mm in order to remove the air box. But we'll get to that in a second. So with removing the air box and moving the coolant reservoir out of the way, I was able to access all three of these from the top with that one wrench. It was able to get all of them. I was also able to get my hand in there in order to get all those in like it was nothing. For this one right here, I found the easiest was underneath using a 10mm. There's not a whole lot of room, but that seemed to work out the best for that. As for these three back here, I just used one of those, a little shallow swivel, and a 3/8 wrench. As for this one, I used the same setup, but towards the front of the vehicle, up and into there in order to reach that one. And this one you do not use on the SRT headers. So let me show you on the vehicle and what all I removed and how much space that gives you. How about that? So you can actually see, you can literally fit your whole hand down there. All I did was the coolant reservoir, removed the two 10s that hold that on, and then just kind of moved it up and zip tied it to the hood strut, and then removed the air box, and that gave me all of this space right here, more than I was needing. Alright, so at this point now, all I gotta do is just get underneath the vehicle and re-hook up the downpipes. I'm still kind of deciding whether or not I want to gut the cats, but if I do, I'll make sure to show a little snip on HP Tuners on how you basically deactivate or take out of the logic of the cold start, that the warming up of the cats, which will foul out something that I'm putting in this, the wideband. I did opt to drop the cat back on this just because with this MBRP exhaust, I think I just lost some tolerance or whatever it was, but I just didn't have enough room in order to drop the downpipes with the MBRP exhaust there. So I did drop that, so I'm going to get that pushed back up in. And you guys won't be able to hear a cold start because, well, I got more work to do on this. So this is the update on that. Till next time, I'm going to be installing an AEM wideband on this, setting up the harness that's basically going to run into the what the supercharger is going to need. And then I have a gauge setup that I'm going to be installing. So look out for the next one. See you then.
Oh gosh. Oh good son of a... Oh, this is stupid. Oh, I'm regretting my life choices. The other side. Yes. I still have the heat shield to put in. Damn it. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but way back in there, you can see the mount. And you can see where I cut that off. That's where that bolt is. And now this passenger side. It was a pain in the butt. It's a banger. Ha ha.
Yeah, don't judge me for this.
Past and the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious, mysterious.